in the last century, back in the last millennium, that remembers rural electrification. Do not laugh, because it was a very serious business when it happened here in Ireland. Back in the 1960s, I know there's somebody else from Roscommon here in the audience, but in rural Ireland, in the west of Ireland, my grandfather resolutely stood against electricity. Absolutely. It kind of came down his very, very, very remote rural road, and it took a kind of a bend past his house, and he wasn't having it. Two reasons he offered. One, he said that it was created by the devil. And the second one, of which he was absolutely morally certain, was it would never catch on. So anyway, that's my DNA, right? And I still remember when he was in his 90s, my father eventually, almost over my grandfather's dead body, bringing in, getting electricity brought into the house. It's an interesting thing, because if you go to the little cottage even today, you'll see that right outside the front gate, somebody planted the electricity pole, so that you can't open the gate. You can't actually get through the gate unless you are suffering from anorexia. And so, anyway, it's still there, and these wonderful loops of electricity wires and cabling came in through the door, but nobody bothered to make sure that the door actually could still close. So the door never closed thereafter, because it came literally over the top of the door. They weren't tracked into anything. And then it kind of turned into the tiny living room. And you had these, you won't remember this, but we used to have these awful cables that were wrapped in thread, these brown electric cables. Anybody remember those? No? Okay. Honestly, they were real, they really happened. And then, and we had the ceremonial switching on of the 25-watt bulb, which was a wonder to behold, except that, of course, my grandfather, immediately that it was put up, he stuck 2 fly papers on it, so you couldn't actually see anything. And he sat in the corner absolutely, resolutely sure that he was right, because after all, he reckoned that a candle gave more light than this 25-watt bulb surrounded by about 5,000 flies. So that's my techie background now. So I'm just setting out my stall here. But the wonderful thing now for me to go into that same little cottage is, you know, since my grandfather died, and he's probably revolving perpetually in his grave since, because we've a microwave, we've a washing machine, we've central heating, we've TV, we've the internet. Thanks to all these problem-solving people, we have the most extraordinary new boundaries of technology that have made life so much easier for us. One of the lovely things I saw lately, one of the loveliest things that just says to me so much about what technology has to offer. And I've seen it offering opportunities to the blind, the deaf. I've seen it offer opportunities to those who are suffering from disability. We've seen the extraordinary things that it's able to do in medicine and surgery. But one of the loveliest things was last week I was in Lebanon, and I was visiting the UNIFIL forces in southern Lebanon in Tidneen. And there I met a young Irish soldier who is far from home, obviously, and whose wife had given birth 2 days earlier to their first child. Now, in the normal course of events, of course, he wouldn't see the baby, he'd get a photograph. But no, with Skype, thank you, Skype, he's able to see his child at 1 second old, and at 10 seconds old, and at an hour old, and at a day old, and to be intimately involved in the life of his children. And one of the great things to be at that camp, I was there 14 years ago, because it was my very first trip as president. It's also my last trip as president, last trip abroad. It was lovely to be able to see the changes that Wi-Fi had brought to these soldiers. And it's the same as an emigrating people, the people who've emigrated. Some of you, I know, are the children of emigrants and the grandchildren of emigrants. One of the awful things in the past was that emigration pretty much meant amputation. You know, amputation from home, never to return, not any longer. Actually, now, you know, between all the wonderful gifts that you have given us, there is an intimacy of experience now. In fact, that we remain intimately connected with our family abroad, and they with us. And these are the great gifts that you have given us. You are a most gifted group of people who have brought such delight to our lives, such inventiveness. We are so grateful to have you here. I know that you cover the whole panoply of the world of technology. And so, as I said at the beginning, don't expect any treatises from me, because it is not my sphere. I'm only a lawyer, and I'm married to a dentist. A chance to be out. Please. Somebody came in here earlier and apologised for being a journalist, and I said, go to the back of the queue. I'm at the beginning of the queue, he's second in the queue. Of most dislike professions. So, but we hope, we really do hope that here you will enjoy Ireland. We're a creative people, we're an innovative people. We've been through, as you know, tough times in terms of our economy, but we're getting there, thank goodness. We're making our way through it because we have good brain power, and we put that brain power to work in what we call a mehel of effort. That's where everybody works together, and we get our way through it because somehow or another we find a solidarity in community and with each other. We work for our country, we work to make our country better. And we're very, very grateful that you are here, because your brain power will surely help us to take even bigger steps than we are taking now. We've produced more than our fair share of Nobel laureates across all the areas, whether it's the sciences, the arts, the great art of peacemaking. So you'll find that it's a place that relishes conversation, relishes debate. I'm sure if you've travelled in taxis, you'll have discovered that. Everybody has an opinion in this country. But the important thing is that there are two things about it, I think, that are hallmarks of your lives, because you've got great intellectual curiosity. This is a place that relishes intellectual curiosity. It's a place where there is always a restless curiosity and a restless wonder about life. And then there is that other thing, that no matter what life throws at us, there is joy in life. We always manage to find a space for joy. Now, we call that space the crack. Do not be misled. It is perfectly lawful. In fact, it's actually mandatory here. It's the only country in the world where crack is mandatory. Absolutely, completely mandatory. And you have to have the crack while you're here. The word is spelled C-R-A-I-C, right? Very important that you understand that. But it's also very important that you have the crack here. The crack is simply good fun, good conversation, a good experience of community, of being among people whom you start out with as strangers, but you end up as friends. That is what makes Ireland tick. And I hope, I really hope that you go away with great memories of having had a great time here. Please goodness, your own restless curiosity will last your lifetime. And surely if it does, as you'll never be bored and you'll never be boring. If that restless curiosity is your constant life's companion. We want your days in Dublin to be happy and to be memorable, and we are just so very, very grateful that you are here. Please have fun.